Good evening, and thanks for joining us here on KXAN Live. I'm Will DuPree.
And I'm political reporter John Engel.
Tonight, we're holding a virtual town hall about one of the 8 propositions that voters are voting on right now here in the city of Austin.
Yeah, well, and tonight our conversation is going to focus on Proposition F, which would fundamentally change the structure of government in our city. Right now, the city operates under a council-manager form of government. The mayor, along with 10 council members, vote on items to decide city policy. The city manager takes direction from the council and mayor, but the city manager is in charge of enacting those policies. If approved, Proposition F would make Austin what they call a strong mayor form of government.
And here's what that means. The mayor would essentially become the chief administrator and take over the city manager's responsibilities, since that job would be eliminated entirely. Voters would still elect the mayor in this proposed system, but that person would have much broader powers. For instance, the mayor would have veto power over any decision made by the city council. That person would also be responsible for hiring and firing department heads and directing employees to carry out actions.
And just to reiterate, Proposition F would mean a single person would control things like the city's nearly $4 billion budget, oversee nearly 15,000 city employees, and have veto power over the council. That's a big point with this proposal. However, council members would still be able to override that veto with a 2/3 majority vote.
And now that we've laid out all those basics about Prop F, we're going to take a deeper dive now. Later, we are bringing you a panel of reporters to look at how the strong mayor system works in Houston and the potential impact here in Austin. But we begin first with a discussion featuring groups for and against this proposal. Let's introduce our panelists now. And guys, as we all sit here in this Zoom call, I want you to just give everybody who's watching at home a wave as I introduce you and say your names. So speaking on behalf of the group Austinites for Progressive Reform is Andrew Allison and Nelson Linder. Austinites for Progressive Reform is the political action committee launched to push voters to approve the strong mayor proposal. Now, on the other side, opposing this reform and this effort is another group called Austin for All People. The 2 people joining us from that group tonight are former Austin city manager Jesus Garza and Nico Ramsey. And we'd like to note that each of these groups chose who they'd like to speak with us tonight, and we again welcome you all. And now I send it over to my colleague, John Engel, to start us off with the questions.
All right, thank you so much, Will, and thank you all for joining us for this town hall. A quick reminder, this is a discussion. It is not a debate, so please wait for your turn to answer these questions. I promise you all have the opportunity to share where you're coming from. And we want to make this as easy to understand as possible, because city policy, city structure of government can get a little wonky at times. So this is your opportunity to make it plain for the voter before they go to vote. Okay, so first, we're asking to really narrow down the issues and keep this focused for those watching at home. Talk about 2 of Austin's greatest strengths right now, and then what are 2 of the biggest threats to our community? And we want to start with Austinites for Progressive Reform.
Sure, I can begin there. Thanks very much. I'll start, and Nelson, please jump in. But I think that 2 of our biggest strengths right now as a city is our belief in democracy and the idea of ensuring that everybody has access to the ballot and everybody's voice is heard, and our ability to think independently as a city and creatively. Our weaknesses, our challenges, are clearly our inability to get our affordability crisis under control over these last many years, and our displacement crisis, where we have massive wealth and inequality gaps between the citizens of Austin, and it's leading us to lose our population to surrounding areas or outside of Austin altogether, losing our Black and Latino population, for example. This is a huge risk to our future as a city.
And I'll pose the same question to Austin for All People.
Well, when you think about Austin, about the strengths that we possess, I think that it's clear that the way policy has been formulated in Austin is with a lot of active citizen participation. I can remember there's many issues that have been decided at the city where there has been long public hearings, a lot of public input, in terms of the direction we ought to go in. And so I think citizens have always been very proud of the participatory process at Austin. I think that is one of the strengths of the city. It allows for the diversity of thought as decisions get made. As we look to the future and the challenges that we will possess as a city, in addition to the two that Andrew mentioned, you've got infrastructure issues. Our investment in infrastructure as a region that is beyond just the city of Austin has not kept pace with the rapid growth here in the region. And that's very similar to what's happening in the state of Texas. So population growth is one that is causing strains on our infrastructure. Though we did make some progress with Project Connect that was approved here last November. In addition, I think you always have to worry about issues of air quality and water quality. Those are things that are important to Austinites because it is very different as a city. It's we don't pave, we don't do extensive paving. We have a lot of green space. And I think we need to preserve that. And so those are things that we need to worry about. And the issue of affordability is important. And I think the way you solve that is to continue to work with all the various jurisdictions about how we can improve that aspect of our, not just our city, but our region.
And we want to stick with Austin for all people at this point with this next question. What is an example of a time when the city manager has accomplished something that you believe a strong mayor could not?
Well, in terms of being able to propose policy that can bring basically the entire council and the mayor to be able to have that discussion so that there is the connection between the various political elements within the city to be able to bridge the elements of where there's differences of opinion. I think the manager can act as an honest broker, can ensure that those issues get discussed and bring that participation by mayor and council in terms of making some resolution. I think a strong mayor would have difficulty with doing that. I think that that's an issue that we certainly have to be worried about.
And we want to stick with some of these big picture issues too. So how would a strong mayor change the city's approach to homelessness, and what kind of opportunities would be in front of a strong mayor when it comes to our issues with homelessness? I want to hear from Austinites for Progressive Reform on that.
Okay, the first aspect is that if you look at homelessness right now, we haven't really made a big impact on the problem. We've kind of bungled some initial steps, but it never gets it done. Also with the police. I think if you had a mayor council form of government with the chief executive being elected by the people, you would see a lot of these issues fast track. For example, right now we're talking about having private industry work with us on solving the homeless problem. Why not 4 or 5 years ago? We've been in a perennial circle. That's one example. You need direct leadership that's decisive, that can move issues and put resources where they are. We haven't done that. The police issue is going in a perennial cycle as well. We've got the same problems at the same time. So with decisive leadership, with a consensus, I think you can move forward by having competing branches fighting against each other. Right now, there's too much competition between the council and the mayor. We want to have a clear path for power, but also moving decisively to address these issues that have been here for a long time. And one more point, if I may, a little bit off your questions, but it's not about diversity, because in reality, in Austin's history, we've had very little diversity of opinion. If you include in Black people and brown people, that needs to be stated as a matter of record. Under 10-1, we did a little better. But the truth is, Black and brown people in this city today are not making any progress in terms of wage growth, employment growth, median income growth, housing. Those issues are still here. What we're saying is, in a true executive system with a chief executive and a complementary council, you can come to the table real fast and make these decisions and ensure balance, checks and balances, and make sure the resources go east of I-35 as well.
And we'll get to some of those questions about consensus and accountability here in a second. So we will address those areas. But Jesus, Nico, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of what was just described is magical thinking when it comes to a strong mayor. Ideally, these are issues in our city that need to be fixed. But what we have to keep in mind is that a city manager goes through the day-to-day of our city government. So it's not just the issue of homelessness. It's not just the issue of the police brutality that we see in our city, but it's all the other services of our city, like all the departments that make our city run. I mean, when we think about big picture here, we have to think about all the other areas that an administrative hire, that is a city manager, goes to school, gets certified, and knows what to do. And we run the risk of when we put someone that's elected that might just have an agenda item for maybe just those two, but what happens to the rest of the city? And that is always the issue that will be with whomever, if elected, becomes our chief executive.
Now, a common criticism, this is touching on some topics you all have brought up now. A common criticism for the city of Austin is that things move a little too slowly and that progress and consensus are difficult. Let's talk about issues that seem to take a lot of time to move forward. Code Next, for example, took years to develop and then ultimately it was scrapped. We're also seeing that the city of Houston, which has a strong mayor system, was able to hire a new police chief in just a day, a very short period, whereas in Austin, it takes much longer, many months, for instance. Austin, for all people, this question is directed to you. How efficient is our current council manager form of government here in Austin?
Well, on the two issues of land use and then the issue of the police chief or a chief or an executive hire. First, let me address the land use issue. There's not anything that's more difficult than that. I mean, I think for us to think that that can be done quickly and efficiently, sometimes we'll leave a lot of things unsaid, and I think it would make the policy unworkable. I realize that Code Next took a long time to develop. There may have been a lot of reasons attributed to that, the consultant, among other things, but I think that part of what has not happened with respect to land use is we've tried to boil the ocean all at one time, and that's made it very, very difficult. Now, I understand that we ought to find ways to chunk that process up a little bit so that we can make some progress on it. I think there's a lot of strong opinions from neighborhoods and from other citizens that I think you just simply can't run over. You've got to take into consideration their points of view as you develop a policy that really affects how renovations you make at your home or in your neighborhood. With respect to a hire, I mean, I think in terms of personnel, there's nothing that is more important for a city to make sure we have the right hire. And I'm not familiar who with Mayor Turner selected for his police chief, but I think is one that you want to be thoughtful with. You want to be able to have the community engagement so that they can see who the candidates are. And so when you make that selection, that person has the best chance for success in a city that obviously is passionate about not just public safety, but a whole host of other issues.
And now we want to bring in Austinites for progressive reform. I mean, on the flip side of this, how do you view how efficient our government is when you take into consideration big policy things like Code Next or the choice of the next police chief?
Andrew?
Sure. I think the question is about accountability. And who do we hold accountable when we're not getting what we need from our government? If something is moving slowly, if we're having an accelerating affordability crisis while we wait for solutions, or if we have issues with police accountability and oversight, we don't have someone to hold accountable right now. We do not get to vote for the person who makes those critical day-to-day decisions. And as a result, we get finger pointing between our council and staff. We get finger pointing between folks in City Hall. We should have the ability to elect the person who is the most powerful person in City Hall, who oversees our executive branch, just like we can elect our city council right now. And then we can hold our council accountable for the laws that they write, and we can hold our mayor or chief executive accountable for the policies they implement and the quality of their management. But when we don't have that accountability, voters have no one to point to for a solution, for help, for blame, for praise. And as a result, we can go back to the ballot box again and again and vote for promises, but ultimately not be able to hold anybody accountable when those promises don't get fulfilled.
Staying with you in the Austinites for progressive reform, this question kind of speaks about qualifications for a potential strong mayor if that system is indeed implemented and voters approve it. How do you ensure that that person who will acquire so much power is qualified enough and has the right experience to wield that?
I take that. I think we have a democratic system. That's what we're proposing. And I believe in the American people, the Austinites. I think our voters are smart enough to make the best decisions. Everything I've seen indicates that. When we apply our folks intelligent enough to pick the right person, it's kind of a little insult. I think our voters are very informed. They can pick the city council. They can pick the most qualified person Because when you talk about a citywide race, you have to win that race by knowing the issues, how you communicate, and the confidence you have. I don't think that's a problem, frankly. I think just like we pick city council members and we get it right and wrong sometimes, I think the mayor has a high threshold because that person is elected at large. So I think the voters have proven, number one, that they're intelligent, that they can make these kind of decisions, and they can actually decipher information. So I believe in the voters more so than in the political structure. I think most time the voters get it right.
And on the flip side, Jesus and Nico, why should the person with the most power in Austin not be elected?
Because, well, again, with a strong mayor, there is a consolidation of power with veto authority. And we've talked about earlier how a city manager does the day-to-day and understands how to run a city. The reason why Austin continues to be at the top, of lists of best places to live, when businesses come here, they don't just come, they expand. There is a reason for that. Okay, there is a professional that takes the directives of city council and puts them into place. So no one's saying that we don't trust or we shouldn't trust the voters. Austin voters are very smart, but there are certain checks and balances that are in place that keeps us, for the most part, a scandal-free city. I mean, is our form of government perfect? No, but nothing is. And to then decide to overhaul our city government in a low turnout election with low, participation of the community. I mean, talk about the difference between 10-1 and this. People don't even know this is happening. So if you're really wanting buy-in for us to shift executive powers to an elected individual, then where was the due process to let everybody know what's going on, just like what happened in 10-1 that just happened in 2015. So that is why it's important to have somebody who knows what they're doing in charge of a $4.2 billion budget and 15,000 employees.
Well, and Nico, to your point about people not knowing what's going on, that is why we're doing this town hall today. So that's why we appreciate you all for being here for this one. I want to talk about leadership in moments of crisis, and we've needed that of late. We've had a few in these recent months. How well have Austin leaders handled moments of crisis? What's the best leadership structure to be nimble and take action quickly? Thinking about the winter storms in February, lost power, lost water, lost gas, and last year protests and calls for social justice. Austin for All People, the question for you is, what's the best way forward for our city when it needs a leader the most?
Well, under the system where you have a crisis, it is a unique partnership between the mayor and the city manager to sort through how those services get delivered or how the emergency aspects of this city can deal with that crisis. And I'll give you an example. In 2015, we had a great number of citizens from New Orleans come into town. Well, the city manager at the time, Toby Futrell, worked with the mayor to establish a center where all those citizens could be housed. We at Brackenridge Hospital, I wasn't with the city at the time, I was with Seton. We set up a place where we could care for people, where we could make sure they got the health care they needed so that they could go on about their lives and try to transition into this community. In an emergency, really, many of the structures that we're trying to talk about today get broken down a little bit because you've got to deal with that emergency to deal with that crisis. And so I think in that instance, the mayor and the city manager are partners in that to ensure that those services get delivered in a timely way. And it's when the mayor declares that emergency that the city operation begins to work toward alleviating that crisis. That's how it works now, and it has worked well. And I notwithstanding that there are some issues that happened during the winter storm that may have been averted a little bit, but I think that by and large, the staff did, along with the council, did a great job in making sure that we were able to do what we could under dire circumstances.
Nelson, Andrew, your response?
Sure. The recent storm here in this city and this entire state, clearly there was lack of preparation. There was lack of communication. You can't just blame the state. The city has responsibility also. Ask these people in East Austin, these white people and brown people, if they were treated fairly. You had an old, outdated infrastructure here that just didn't work. You had a lack of response in terms of resources. Those people still don't have water in many cases. They've not been moved because those apartment complexes weren't kept up to date for 50 years. There's a clear difference in infrastructure in East Austin because of lack of response. We can't blame it on the state. And by the way, we had the same issues in 2011. Why didn't we fix that? Because number one, we don't treat this entire city the same, and number two, in these kind of situations, I understand what the manager does, but you have political awareness and experience as well. A politician has to talk to people. So a mayor is going to have the ability to move real fast to address these issues and put things in place. And I think we missed that conversation a lot. That's why we need a chief executive here who understands the needs of the entire city, not just the resources. The resources equal knowing the populations here, who needs what at what time. That's often missing from the conversation.
And Jesus, going back to something you mentioned about the experienced operator and someone who is trained to handle so many levels of government with 15,000 employees, that is a high-level CEO by all marks. I think it's only fair to acknowledge your experience and your background in the difficulties that come with that. And why do you believe, based on your experience, based on your knowledge of the position, that needs to be someone who is a trained bureaucratic operator?
Well, let me just say that I spent almost 20 years with the city of Austin in two different assignments. My first was 10 years, and then 9 years the second time. It took a long time to learn how the city operation works, and I worked in a lot of different departments. I think part of this is that you've got to know who to call, when to get things done. I'm here to basically say that this system can work, and there are times, especially during this pandemic, when things have not worked well. And for that, I think we need to do better. I don't think there's any question about that. But I think it's still, by and large, to understand how an operation works and how to give directives to make sure that things get done is something that somebody who understands the operation can do best. But again, it is a partnership between the city manager and the mayor. There's no question the mayor is the political leader of the council and the community. And there are times when you need to have that voice call to action for the community so that they can bring additional resources to bear to solve an issue. So I think I think at least in my time in working with Mayor Watson, working with Mayor Todd, working with Mayor Garcia, that partnership was powerful during circumstances when we had crises, and we worked together to get things done for the citizens of this city.
And we'll also allow Austinites for Progressive Reform to respond to this too. But isn't it also true that in structures where there is a strong mayor format, that if the city manager or that high-ranking city official is not, quote unquote, the CEO, there is a COO, someone that is underneath the elected who helps navigate? I'm interested if you can share what the difference in that dynamic would be.
Under a strong mayor system, it is in all likelihood that you will have a deputy mayor or a COO, as you said a minute ago, who will run all the day-to-day affairs. But you're talking about a crisis. I think obviously that would happen in a crisis, but in the day-to-day affairs, the mayor would be setting policy or be working on issues of policy and politics, whereas the administrator would be working on the day-to-day running of the city government, city operation. Under this system, you've got the mayor and council set policy and direction, and then the manager begins to implement that policy, brings recommendations to the council to ensure that policy is implemented and done in an effective way. And the council then has a very important oversight role. The mayor and council have an oversight role over the management and the administration to see whether things are being done as they've directed. And I think when they find that things are not working the way they ought to, then they take action to make those corrections within the management team or the city manager.
And Nelson and Andrew, do you believe that under the strong mayor format that, a 2/3 vote to overcome a veto is enough in terms of that check?
Absolutely. Sure, absolutely. First of all, the council takes 2/3 votes all the time, every Thursday almost. And that's a really critical point in this discussion. The mayor has a veto, but the council can override that veto. So there are checks and balances in this system between two democratically elected and democratically accountable bodies of government. And every big city in the country that has this system, and most of them do, also has a mayoral veto and the council's ability to override. Critically, though, at the end of the day, the voters have the final say over who is the chief executive of our city, leading the executive branch, and who the council is. And we just don't have that right now. If things are working great, like the examples that we heard about from 15 or 25 years ago, then there's nothing to worry about. But what happens when things are not working great? What happens when there's a crisis, as Nelson discussed, and the resources aren't getting to where they need to go, or we were not prepared for it in the first place? What happens when, as we've seen time and time again over the last 5 years, the chief executive ignores the will of the council and does not implement what they've asked to do? What happens when we have crisis after building crisis in this city, where we can't seem to get our hands around the problems that we're facing as we grow? We don't have somebody that voters can hold accountable today to make sure that, first of all, we're doing things that are in line with our values and our vision as a city. And second of all, when things are not moving as quickly as they need to, or in the direction they need to move in, we can make a change. We don't have that choice right now as voters. We do not have that power over our executive branch. And Proposition F, a yes vote on Proposition F, is about giving voters that power.
In addition to Proposition F, voters here in Austin have a very full ballot whenever they go to the polling place. So let's talk about some of those other propositions. Austin for All People is only taking a position on the strong mayor proposal, but Austinites for Progressive Reform believe their ballot measures work together as a bundle. That includes a new council seat, public vouchers for campaign donations, and moving mayoral elections to the presidential years. For Andrew and Nelson, let's start with you. How would a strong mayor work if those other propositions don't pass?
Well, clearly, there are going to be challenges. But I think when you look at the entire system, the gains here outweigh any particular risk. I mean, for example, if you take D, E, G, H, put them together, you got a very democratic proposal. And I think the odds of what you're describing happening is very slim. So I'm looking at, but I think it's probability and also likelihood. And the likelihood is number one. If that happens, we can address it. But the truth is, if all these propositions are embraced and adopted, you can have a pretty comprehensive system that accounts for that. But let me say one more thing that we don't talk about. We don't talk about the fact that the black population in this city, in District 1, might even lose its opportunity district because of a diluting and declining population. We don't talk about that. So when you talk about G, a new card amendment, the city is growing. And in the process, if our population is increasing, we're not going to have representation. Let's talk about that aspect, which is a greater challenge. So if you adopt these propositions together, you're going to have a city that's prepared to address its common challenges by having equal representation based on race and geography. I think that's the more critical issue. We want to have democratic representation. That's what 10-1 allegedly did. So I think that's the real issue here. I don't think the likelihood of a tie vote is going to be the primary problem based on my analysis and what I've looked at.
And to be fair, Jesus and Nico, for Austin for All People, I mean, what do you all think if the strong mayor proposal is not approved by voters, but other initiatives pushed by Austinites for Progressive Reform do get approved? What do you all think about what will happen then?
Well, I mean, I think in essence, you'd have them implemented. The democracy dollars, the ranked choice voting is one. I think the ranked choice voting might have some issues with state law. You'll have to sort through that. I think the issue of democracy dollars may have some issues or some challenges from a legal standpoint, but you'd work through those things. You'd spend the resources to sort through that. I think another district would allow us to have another representative. But I want to challenge this a little bit in terms of, 10-1 is in its infancy, and the intent was to allow people from their districts to have a seat at the table, which previously had not been there. And when you place so much power in one executive, the mayor, who can veto items from council, it would take a 2/3 vote to overturn, which is even for, and I realize that for routine items, you get a majority, you get more than a 2/3 vote, but for controversial items, it's rare, and it'll be hard to do a 2/3 vote override. What you will then have is lessen the power of the very districts that we created in the 10-1 system. And I think that would be a mistake. And actually, that would be the antithesis of additional democracy, would be less so. So I think it's one that we have to be wary about. But I think in terms of our position, we haven't taken a position on those other propositions. And certainly that's why we have votes. And that's why the citizens go to the polls and make decisions about how their constitution, which is the charter, ought to be changed. Nico may have some additional comments.
Well, it's just one point to make on that. When we talk about representation, our current form of government gives us the representation we need, especially if we're going to start talking about, so often the argument is the opportunity district, District 1 for Black people, right? And as mentioned, Austin is growing. To be honest, we have 10 opportunity seats in this city. So, soon, it is no secret that as we grow, Black and brown people will be holding office on the west side of town. We're not just supposed to be holding one district. So our current form of government makes sure that we have 10 people on the dais, right? Coming together, making compromise that works for all of Austin. If we consolidate power into one person that we hope has, I hope if somehow Prop F passes, I hope that individual has the best interest for Black and brown people on the Eastern Crescent. But there's no guarantee. But what we can guarantee is that by current district, that district representation that has our council members sharing equitable power to make decisions to execute in our community, we would lose that. And their voice would be drastically diminished, thus meaning the voters' voice would be diminished underneath a strong mayor form of government.
I want to thank you all for joining our conversation tonight. It's been very enlightening, and I hope people that have been watching so far feel a little more comfortable about where they might end up voting on Prop F. So we thank you all again for joining us. But before we let you jump off our Zoom, we want to give you each a chance, or each group rather, a chance to deliver a closing statement. So we're going to go first with Austinites for Progressive Reform, Nelson and Andrew. And you have a minute to deliver your remarks, so I'll leave you the floor.
A little history. 234 years ago, we had the same conversation in ratifying our Constitution. You had the Federalists who wanted the executive, and the Anti-Federalists. So here we are 234 years later having the same conversation. Well, here's what's important. This nation has made some adjustment and survived. So as cities grow, and if things change or don't change, you need to make a more effective system. The question for me is really, can Austin be a better, more inclusive city? The answer is yes. And if you think you're going to have Black people in all these other districts with the small population percentages, you're very misinformed. That's why we have the one in the first place, to meet the standards of the Voting Rights Act. That's why we created that. It's a legal thing. I'll say this. All the fear about having a strong mayor in the city running errant does not square with reality if you know Austin, Texas. And what we're saying is, if you honestly, we can do better for all people, especially Black, brown, and poor people east of I-35, because this is a very resourceful city. This system gives you a better way to do that, because political representation at large has everybody's input. And the mayor in that situation is going to have experts in these departments who help manage daily operations. So I believe that if we really want to grow and challenge these antiquated problems that we still have with racism, gentrification, medium income gaps, racial wage gap, economic segregation, you can address those things, but you can't do it doing the same old things. And a final point. This is Jesus. It took us almost 6 years to go to a 10-1 system. And many of the folks who are claiming that system didn't even support it. You watch the city have racist policies for almost 50 years and treat these very same problems. Now you want to pose change. Change, when done the right way, is a good thing. If you direct it, perfect it, we can make Austin, without doubt, the best city in the country for everybody. Right now, it's not. And it can be. That's our vision.
Thank you, Nelson and Jesus and Nico. I wanted you guys to deliver a closing statement for Austin for All People.
Okay, well, I think that the council manager system has worked for the city of Austin. We talked about the most powerful person, or at least the alleged powerful person is the manager, but the fact of the matter is the mayor and council set policy. The mayor and council approve the budgets. The mayor and council set the capital budget. They set the bond elections to do the improvements to this community. We just went to a 10-1 system just recently. I think that we have not yet grown into that system, and I think going to a strong mayor will truncate that or shortchange that. And I think that that would be a mistake. And finally, the fact of the matter is, when you consolidate power in one individual that can appoint all the department heads, virtually all the department heads, be able to veto items from council that takes a 2/3 vote to override, it puts an awful lot of power in one individual. It minimizes the power of the city council. And I think that that would be a mistake if the city of Austin went that way.
Thank you all again. We really appreciate your participation, and we look forward to talking to you more in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys take care. Good to be with all of you.
Likewise. Likewise.
Yes, sir.
And we want to thank everyone who joined our discussion this evening. Thank all of our participants. That's Jesus Garza and Nico Ramsey from Austin for All People, along with Andrew Allison and Nelson Linder from Austinites for Progressive Reform. Remember, everybody out there who's watching, early voting begins today. So if you take a look right here at the dates that we have for the voting, early voting starts today and runs through April 27th. That's a Tuesday. You can find links to early voting locations right now on KXAN.com. And Election Day is Saturday, May 1st. And now we are going to transition to a different group. Thank you for letting me get over that muting issue. Even though we've been at this for so long, it still becomes an issue with technical difficulties. So thanks for sticking with us. We're going to now have a bit of a deeper discussion now about kind of the implications of a strong mayor system and the potential impact that changing the system could have here in Austin.
And we're joined by Daryl Slusher. He served 3 terms on the Austin City Council, now reporting on politics for the Austin Independent. Daryl, thanks for being with us. And also joining us is Jen Rice, a reporter who covers City Hall for Houston Public Media. We're going to start with Jen. Houston has a strong mayor system, so we want to give you the opportunity to tell us how it's set up and how it's been working over in Houston in your time reporting.
Sure. One thing I think is interesting is that it's not really like a binary, between a strong mayor and a weak mayor. What they're talking about in Austin actually is different from what's going on in Houston, because in Houston, the mayor is the only person who can put an agenda item for a vote. The mayor in Houston controls everything on the agenda. So that's sort of a signature part of the way that the government is set up here, which I don't think is part of the ballot proposition you guys are talking about.
And does that ever get dicey with the makeup of council and how, Austin city government operates? When does that come to a head?
Sure. It's definitely an issue that, people have strong feelings about. And in fact, in Houston this year, Houston voters may get the opportunity to vote also on a referendum that would give 3 council members the ability to put something on the agenda, which is, people are having very strong feelings about that idea as well here.
Where does the momentum feel on that, if you can, look into the crystal ball at all, if that's possible?
Well, I think one thing that's really interesting about that movement is that it's coming from a lot of different places together. It's not coming from the left or the right. It's Democratic Socialists, it's the Firefighters Union, it's local conservatives. It's a wide variety of people. However, one thing that's also interesting is we haven't had that many city council members come out publicly supporting it because the mayor hasn't supported it. So that's probably one reason why city council members are not yet saying how they feel about the idea.
Bringing you now, Daryl, into the conversation, since you served 3 terms on Austin City Council, how do you think, if you had your old seat back, you'd view this effort on Prop F?
Well, as a council member, I'd probably have a lot of reservations about it because I think it does weaken the council. Jen just said that it's not, this proposal in Austin makes the council seemingly a little bit stronger than in Houston, but you can see how they're trying to strengthen the council's role there. And she also emphasized something that Jesus Garza has been saying, that the council would have to play ball with the mayor to get anything done. And what she just said was, it seems like the council members are, let's use the word, reticent to come out for something that would strengthen their power. So I would say I would have a lot, from that standpoint, I would have a lot of reservations about it. I mean, I have seen sometimes it is frustrating in the city manager system to get things done, but you do always have the recourse there to, evaluate the city manager and up to firing the city manager. And with the mayor, that would just be a decision every 4 years.
And Daryl, in your comprehensive reporting about this on the Austin Independent, you've uncovered some of the unusual alliances that have forged, pushing for both for and against this particular initiative. From your reporting, what have you discovered about who's supporting it and calling for change, and who's kind of opposing it at this time?
Yeah, especially the opposition is particularly interesting because you have business, the Chamber of Commerce, you have a lot of labor unions, especially the City Employees Union, the EMS Union. So you have business and labor. You have Mike Levy, who I think a lot of people here in Austin know is probably the strongest voice or most vocal person for more police. And then you have people for defunding the police that are against it. And then you have like the Young Republicans and the liberal Austin Democrats. And what I take from that is that as much as people like to criticize the City of Austin government, and I'm one of them too, but as much as people like to do that, they're saying, keep this system we have now. And so probably these alliances aren't going to last much longer after this election. They'll go back to arguing and debating, but they say, don't take away our forum that we're debating it in. Now, and on the other side, they've got something of a coalition there too, but it seems like not quite as diverse. I think what they're depending on is it's a lot of political consultants and political operatives that are really skilled and good at campaigns, and they're hoping to turn out their voters. They've got a good list there with everybody that signed the petition, so they're hoping to turn them out in a low turnout May election and win it like that.
Very interesting things for sure. Turning back to you, Jen, you've covered particularly about this fight that's happening at City Hall between eviction protections being extended, and that's really created a divide between the mayor and the council.
Well, I think it's really interesting. We've seen over the past year during the pandemic, the way Austin and Houston have taken completely different approaches to housing stability at a time when people have lost a lot of jobs. Austin a year ago pretty quickly passed an eviction moratorium. There's been pretty much a ban in Austin. In Houston, we have gone sort of the opposite approach. There's been like more than 24,000 evictions in the city and in the Houston area. I've done reporting with surveying council members, asking them what they think. We won't actually be able to find out exactly what they think because there likely won't ever be a vote on it because the mayor has said repeatedly all year that he doesn't support the idea of it. So it's not something that's going to be on the agenda because of our strong mayor system that keeps things off the agenda unless the mayor supports it.
And Jen, I'm interested to hear your analysis and impression of what we're dealing with here in Austin around this strong mayor proposal as an outside observer. Your thoughts on how it's playing out with this power struggle here.
Like I said at the beginning, I think it's interesting because it's not a binary. It's not strong mayor or not strong mayor. It sounds like what's going on in Austin is people trying to find more of a middle path, frankly, because it doesn't have that agenda control that like goes to the mayor. So I'm really interested, and I think it's a really nuanced conversation, and I'm really interested to see what Austin voters are going to do.
Yeah, us too. So we'll be watching it along with you. Daryl, Prop F got on the ballot through a petition drive. Explain how that works in Austin and how difficult of a process that is.
It can be a very difficult process. I think the Austinites progressive reform really wisely capitalized on the large turnout in the November election. So they had people out there. They launched it right before or right during early voting. So they had people at all the major early voting locations, I think, on election day too. So they were able to contact a lot of Austin voters all at once. So what you have to do is get 5% of the registered voters to sign the petition saying to put these items on the ballot. And then then the city clerk examines those signatures, does a random sample of them is allowed under state law, and says, do they have enough? Because you have to look and make sure these people are actually registered voters in the city of Austin and that sort of thing. And so then the city clerk determines if they made it. If you get your 5%, it goes on the ballot. And I just add we have all of them on this ballot are charter amendments, except the Proposition B having to do with the homeless encampment issue. And that's one where in Austin, the city charter also gives citizens through petition the power to challenge an ordinance that the city council passes gets 5% of the petition signatures, and you can get that on the ballot to overturn it as well.
And then walk us through what comes next should Proposition F pass. It's not an immediate change, is it?
That's correct. Well, the next mayoral election is in 2022, so that's pretty soon, but it's not immediate. And so then that mayor, the person that's elected in 2022, would get a 2-year term. That is, if also the accompanying item about moving the mayoral election to presidential years. So they would serve a 2-year term. Then it would be on the presidential cycle for that. But the main core answer to your question is the system would go into effect the beginning of 2023. The election would be in November 2022. And so the city manager would have to spend 2022, I guess, looking for a new job.
All right, you guys. Thank you all for sticking with us for all this and listening into that conversation beforehand and offering your insight. Jen Rice from Houston Public Media, we thank you so much for being here. I'm a big fan. I listen all the time, so thank you. Daryl Slusher with the Austin Independent and former Austin City Council member, thank you as well. We appreciate it. And before we go, we want you all to remember that early voting has begun again. If you take a look again, these are the dates to remember. It started today and runs through Tuesday, April 27th. You can find links to early voting locations right now on our website. That's KXAN.com. And Election Day is Saturday, May 1st. John Engel, we appreciate you joining us as well and offering your questions and insight to this too.
Yeah, thank you, Will.
All right. Thank you all again for watching. We'll see you back here at another time, everybody. Please stay safe and healthy and take care out there.